We've got not one, but two big name guest stars new to the Connors universe this week in Jane Lynch and Seth Green, in addition to continuing some of the threads we started in last week's season premiere. Let's talk about fame, flying fists, and cold feet. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for The Connors. We've got episode 2 of season 7 now. Just a few episodes left, 4 episodes after this, and then that is a wrap for The Connors, unfortunately. But look, like I said last week, at least we got these 6 episodes to give us a little bit more time with this family. And we'll get into everything here with this episode momentarily. But first, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a subscriber already to Dan Reviews It, thank you so much for that. If you're not, though, please consider doing so. You click that notification bell, too, so you can get the alerts for all my video drops. And I do much more than just the Connors episodes, although every week that there is a new Connors, I do that, and there's a backlog of over 100 episodes of the Connors and Roseanne season 10 even that I have reviewed over the years, so you can check those all out in playlists on the homepage there. But look, I do a lot more than the Connors here on the channel. Movie and TV reviews galore, and just about every day something new goes up, so there's always a lot to check out. But please do keep that in mind, subscribe, and click that notification bell. But look, comment below too, because I love interacting with the Connors fans. That's really why I started doing these reviews. I have so much fun talking with people that love the Connors as much as I do, but can also be critical of them as well. I love a good dialogue about some of these episodes. So, all right, Fame, Flying Fists, and Cold Feet is the name of the episode, and we'll break this down in a second. It was directed by Jody Margolin Hahn. She directed last week's season premiere, and if Wikipedia is correct, and sometimes they are, she is actually directing all 6 of these final season episodes, which I think is awesome. She's been part of the family for a long, long time, and she does. Last season, she did over half of the episodes. So talk about somebody who knows this family inside and out and how to direct them properly. So I love that she is on board to direct all 6 of these. The writer here was Corey Kaplan, and he's written a few episodes before. He writes, I think, on average about 1 per season the last few years. And I looked up, he's too small of a name to even have his own Wikipedia page or anything like that. But Dave Kaplan is an executive producer and has been with the show, I think, since the 90s. I think he was part of the original Roseanne crew, or at least, part of the original run of that show at some point. But I don't know. Is this Dave Kaplan's son? Really, I have no clue. I wish I did. So for now, we'll just leave it at this was written by Corey Kaplan, and I don't know if there is a relation there. But all right, so let's get to the episode. So this actually starts with a thread that began in the premiere of last season, this TV show called Restaurant 911. It is, sort of a Gordon Ramsay, like, Kitchen Nightmares kind of thing, or, they have those, like, there's a bunch of them on either Food Network or Fox, where they go in and sort of, Bar Rescue is one of them. I forget what channel that was on, but anyway, there's a lot of these shows. So their version in Lanford is Restaurant 911, and Nick Offerman was like the host of it. He came in to the lunchbox and was criticizing it and talking to all the different people involved and whatever. So, and they didn't do anything more with that all of last season, and I personally forgot all about it. So it's really cool that they brought that back, and the episode is airing in the intro to this episode. So they're all sitting on the couch watching this Restaurant 911. Now, I will say there are a few people absent in this episode. Mark is not here. Ben is not here, which is part of the plot line. And Louise, not a regular cast member. She's not on all the episodes, but I always like to point out when she's not here because, of course, she is a fan favorite as well. So no Katie Seagal on this one either. But everybody else, all the other main players are here in this episode, including Harris, who we missed last week. So everybody's sitting around on the couch. Dan comes in. Oh, is this your episode? And they joke like, yeah, no kidding, dude. It's us on the TV. But in any event, The Instagram of the Lunchbox starts getting a lot of traction. It gains, like 1,000 some followers after the airing of the episode, and Becky thinks, well, this would be a great opportunity to make a name for myself in that universe and be some sort of influencer. So I guess we'll start with that portion of the episode, and that's the first part of the title anyway, the fame part. And yeah, so she wants to be this influencer. She wants Beverly Rose in on the act. Beverly Rose wants nothing to do with it. She sees right through her mom, and she's like, why are you doing this? Why are you offering to help me with your homework? That never happens. And her sass makes her sort of the favorite of these videos and not Becky herself. And at first, we see some of the positive comments from people on our screen as Becky is seeing them in real time as well. And then we turn a little bit after the interview, whatever, with Beverly Rose. The comments turn to, hey, less of you and more of the kid. And then we start saying some nasty comments about Becky, about her age, about her looking desperate. There was one joke, what was it called? Reese Deliver Spoon, because she's a waitress. It's, listen, that struck a little bit of a chord with me. Look, my channel is not a big channel on YouTube, obviously. But, I have almost 1,700 subscribers, which is not nothing. And, some of my videos do get over 1,000 views. Not often, but sometimes they do. In fact, a lot of my 1,000 plus videos are Connor's episode reviews, to be honest. But certainly with any sort of notoriety or whatever, there's going to be these trolls, there's going to be these people with negative opinions. Look, and I said it last week too, I forget why I was even talking about it, but I guess because people were bitching and have been for 6 years about Roseanne not being on the show ruined it and this and that and the other thing, but they've kept Roseanne's moment and memory alive throughout this whole series of the Connors, and they're doing it again with this thread in season 7 that we'll talk about in a moment. But that's why I started talking about it last week. But yeah, the negative comments don't they don't really bother me, because a comment is, food for the YouTube algorithm for more people to find my video. So whether the comment is positive or negative, and listen, most of the negative comments have more to do with, Roseanne leaving the show and the politics of all of that and, that sort of thing than it does about me personally. But I have certainly gotten some comments, over the years about my appearance or whatever. And that is what it is. But like I say, every comment, on this platform anyway, Instagram, I don't really deal with, so I don't know how that works. But, every comment, positive or negative, helps the algorithm, parse this video out to other people and whatever. So, but I get it. I mean, I definitely felt her pain a little bit. I don't feel like, I'm a desperate individual for having this channel. But yeah, it gives me something to do, and it gives people, hopefully something to watch and something to enjoy, and, take my reviews for what it is. But it did strike a little bit of a chord with me. Oh, that probably really, hurts her feelings or whatever. And we didn't really see much more of that. That was sort of a dead end, I guess, for part of the episode. And that's the only time we've seen Beverly Rose so far this season as well. So I guess I'll sort of leave it there. But yeah, maybe we'll go back to that later. I don't know. But obviously, look, she's around my age. I think she's maybe 48 or 49 in the show. I'm 47. So I get that feeling of, you're old or you're out of touch or whatever. Bring back the cute kid. During COVID, I made a video with my cats who have since passed. But that was a lot of fun, and I did get a lot of comments on there. Cute cats sell, cute kids sell, sure. So I get it. But all right, so let's move on from that to the flying fist part, because this is where we meet Seth Green. And I knew he was going to be appearing this season. Didn't know about Jane Lynch. We'll get to her in the third story, but I did know Seth Green was going to be something in this episode, or in this season. And so Darlene's at a bar. This couple is, really giving some PDA and wanting Darlene to take some pictures of them, hugging and canoodling, and then they start like making out and wanting her to take a picture of that. So she throws the guy's phone. Seth Green's character, I think his name was Chad, got up and was like, "Hey, buddy, leave her alone, whatever." And it ended up in a fist fight. he got a bloody nose out of it. The couple was like, oh, let's get out of here. So I don't think anything will come of that. But Darlene and this Chad started talking and sort of laying out their lives to one another. He said, oh yeah, that couple was really annoying anyway, so didn't mind taking one for the team there. What's your story? And Darlene tells him that Ben, her husband, has been starting this magazine, this hardware magazine, to which Chad says, why? Which is a fair question. Starting a magazine in this day and age, I don't know. But in any event, Ben has, night and day at the building, I guess. I can't really call it the magazine yet because it's still up and running. He's still setting up everything for the magazine. So, why does he have to sleep there? I don't know. That's a question, and I know Darlene has been asking herself the same thing. So Seth Green, I think, is going to maybe be a guy pal for a few episodes or maybe the rest of the season. And I have to imagine that eventually this will cause a rift between Darlene and Ben, and she's going to say, well, you're never here, blah, blah, blah. Look, to me, this is too reminiscent of the Brian Austin Green stuff from a couple of seasons ago. Darlene, now at that point, Darlene and Ben were kind of on a break, but she was trying to get back with him and improve herself, and then Brian Austin Green comes in, and all of a sudden, maybe she's not proving herself, maybe she's going on a vacation with this guy, whatever. So we're not quite there yet with the Seth Green character, but this is a retread for me of a very, very similar concept a couple of years ago with Brian Austin Green. Not that love triangles or anything are new, but we just went through this specifically with Darlene and Ben right before they got married. So wherever this is going, I don't know. But a couple of you in the comments on last week's episode had mentioned maybe Ben and Darlene are headed for a divorce by the end of the season. I don't think that the show will end on such a dour note. However, I do think that Darlene and Ben are clearly having issues. He's never around, and she is getting resentful of that. So obviously there's, trouble in paradise with that. Are they going to get divorced in a few short episodes? I don't think so. And I really hope not. I mean, I like Ben as a character a lot, and I like the actor, J.R. Ferguson. So I hope that is not the case. And with these, just a few, I mean, if it was a whole, season of 22 episodes, maybe. But I just would like to not see them go out in that respect. Now, before I get to the third plot, I will say that after last week's episode, I was saying in my review of last week that I had hoped that, all 5 of those plots from that episode would sort of carry out through the season and that we would explore them more and whatever. So even though none of them were even remotely wrapped up, I gave the episode a pretty positive grade because I thought, okay, well, we're starting, sort of the seeds here of these last set of episodes. Well, anyway, after I recorded that review, I read an interview with, I think it was with Bruce Rasmussen, who has been an executive producer on the show since it was Roseanne season 10, and I think he was part of the 90s run of Roseanne as well. He had mentioned that, yes, all of these threads are going to sort of be throughout the season. We're going to have a fair amount of, arcing stories through the season, which makes sense. If you're only getting 6 episodes to say goodbye, you're not going to do a lot of one-offs. So it makes sense that he would have said that. Now, we didn't see anything in this episode about Jackie wanting to be a cop or Mark, since he was absent from the episode. We didn't learn more about him and his, illegal online activities with the hacking. So they will be, I assume, coming back in later episodes. Or maybe the Jackie cop thing won't. Maybe that really was just sort of a one-off and a nice way to get her to, Laurie Metcalf, the actress, to act with her daughter, Zoe Perry. I don't know. But in any event, I know we'll hear more about the Mark story as the season goes on. But so, with that in mind, let's talk about this final plot from this episode, Cold Feet. So, we're talking about the lawsuit potentially against the pharmaceutical companies that made the opioids that killed Roseanne. That was a big plot of last week's episode, and it is certainly one of the A stories here. And at first, Dan was very hesitant to do so, and we went over that last week. And in this episode he is at first as well. In fact, in that opening scene, when they're all gathered around the table or the couch watching the Restaurant 911 episode, Jackie says, oh, hey, I have somebody to introduce to everybody. And Jane Lynch enters, the great Jane Lynch. We love her so much. She's been a part of our lives for many, many years now. And she is playing this lawyer who really is out to get money for this family from the pharmaceutical companies. Now, we learned she's got some problems of her own, not the least of which is a bit of an alcohol problem. I guess she's had some DUIs or whatever, but she has to take a breathalyzer before she even starts her car. And so they offer her a beer, and she says, no, I can't do that. I need a breathalyzer or whatever. And then after talking to Jackie and Dan, and Dan sort of refusing everything and saying, no, I don't want to do this. This is blood money. I don't want it. Then Jane Lynch's character is like, oh, you know what? If you don't mind me sticking around for a few hours, I will have that beer. And then we sort of go back to that joke in the tag scene at the end, where, she comes back to the bar with everybody and is like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have a drink. And so since we're all going to be here a few hours, what do you want to talk about, kind of thing. Always funny. Would love if she has a few other episodes. And it sounds like she will, because Dan finally came around. Jackie went to him and said, look, these are the last few texts that Roseanne and I sent each other. And Roseanne had taken a stance about, I'm really worried about Dan. I'm worried about him, providing for the family. I'm worried about Darlene never finding a man, and all of this. What did she say? Trapping another man, like she did David, and all of that. So Dan, at the time that he hears these words, is still pretty adamant. I don't want to do this. This isn't right. This isn't how, I want to remember Rosie. But towards the end of the episode, everybody else comes to the lunchbox and says, look, here's what we think. Darlene's for it. Becky's for it. Harris is for it. And all of them point out to him, look, you've helped us tremendously over the years and years and years and years. You deserve to get yours. And this is what Mom would have wanted you to be able to provide for everybody, including yourself. Okay, so he's like, look, I already made the decision that I was going to do that after hearing the text. But I thought it'd be funny to have you guys all, plead your case anyway. And it was, for him and for us in the audience, I think. So we are going to go forward with this lawsuit. Now, the only thing I really worry about here is this the lottery part 2? Obviously, what ruined the original Roseanne show, in my opinion, and many others, was that final season where they win the lottery, and it turns out, of course, that was a dream at the end of the show, and blah, 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 bull. But is this part 2 of that? Are they going to get this, several $1 million windfall? Now, the lottery, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it had to be enough money that, their entire lifestyle changed. And remember, Jackie was dating that prince that was played by Jim Varney, who plays Ernest. So obviously it had to be enough money to attract royals. So it must have been, a few $100 million or whatever that they fell into. But this would probably not be that. It might be, 3, 4, 5 million, something like that, which would certainly be enough to get everybody through school and buy everybody's houses off and whatever. So I'm thinking more along those lines. But I can't be the only one who thought, is this going to be another version of the lottery? I hope not. And at the same time, look, even if they win this settlement in the very last part of the final episode, we still wouldn't have to then see the aftermath. So I don't think it's going to turn into that in any case. But it did make me wonder, like, all right, we've already kind of gone down that road too. So I don't know. But I do like Jane Lynch, and I would love to see more of her character in this. And look, there were some differing opinions in the comments last week about whether you sided with Dan or not. I could see it both ways. I really am of the mindset that, look, Dan already went through all this. It was very, very hard for him, obviously losing his wife. But, just sort of go over, everything after the fact and all these memories and all their keepsakes and whatever, to have to visually, see them and figure out, okay, do I put this in a box? Do I throw this away? He already did all of that inventory. So I get it, but at the same time, look, this family has always struggled. Obviously, we know now in the present timeline that they never won the lottery. That was not a thing that happened. And whatever, he's been losing the house every couple of seasons. That's been sort of a plot point. He's got grandkids that are in college. It seems like this is the thing to do, and clearly, Roseanne would have wanted them to do that. And yeah, I don't know. I think it is right for the family, and I think it makes sense for the characters, and it makes sense for Dan to be hesitant at first. But he even mentions at the lunchbox that Louise was on board with it as well after he talked it over with her. Even though last week she said it was his decision, I think she definitely had a feeling about it one way or the other and didn't want to say it. But anyway, so that's where we are at this point. So let's wrap it there with our grade and our MVP. I'm going to give the MVP of this episode. Boy, oh boy, I don't know. Not Darlene. Uh, oh boy, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to give it to Jackie. Jackie had, I think, the funniest moment in the episode when she started sort of screeching at the beginning of the episode and saying that men find all women screechy, and Dan's like, no, it's just you. That was a funny moment with her. And look, she's the reason that Dan is considering and has agreed to do the lawsuit. Reading those texts was a very emotional scene. I love emotional scenes with Jackie and Dan. I love, love, love them. Because obviously, of everybody, they're the only ones that have been adults this entire series and have gone, really in waves with their relationship. When the original Roseanne first started, he found Jackie to be a nuisance and on and on. But as we went on, we know that clearly, she sees him as the older brother she never had. He looks at her as a sister 1000%. And the Connors legacy has just sort of, stabilized that. So I love any emotional scene there. And so I will give MVP to Laurie Metcalf as Jackie. But on the whole, this was not one of my favorite episodes. It didn't give me a ton of laughs. And the retread story with Brian Austin Green versus Seth Green, didn't really do much for me there. The Instagram thing was maybe kind of cute, gave Beverly Rose a couple of laughs, but didn't really seem to go anywhere. So I leave this episode. Let's say the name again here. It is called oh, now I'm back up. I don't know. Fame, Flying Fists, and Cold Feet. We're gonna give it a B minus. So hopefully better episodes are on the horizon. I'm interested to see where the storyline goes with the lawsuit. I'm less interested in the Ben, Darlene, Seth Green storyline. But we'll see where that takes us as well. All right, thank you so much for watching, and next week we will have another new episode of The Connors, so join me for the review. Thanks. Bye.